Hi, I'm Wes Whittaker and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about integration through the lens of Dr. Dan Siegel. Dr. Siegel talks a lot about the whole brain or the healthy mind and how to get there through the process of integration. Integration is basically the idea that there are different parts of our brain and our mind that make up who we are and how we experience things. So, for instance, our brain has different parts. So we have our limbic system, which is our more emotional part of our brain. We have our neocortex, which is a more reasoning part of our brain. We have our prefrontal cortex, which is kind of more of a joy and reasoning part of our brain and also involves memory. Of course, all these different parts of our brain do more than just those things, but it's important to understand how those play out in our day-to-day experiences, because obviously if we're having a very emotional moment, it's hard sometimes to think rationally about stuff and clear our mind. And sometimes if we're overly in our head and we're thinking too rationally, sometimes it's hard to be in touch with our emotions. So this approach to integration helps one to better create more of a whole brain. So Dr. Dan Siegel talks about how integration is the key to a healthy mind. And the reason that is because if you're overly emotional, sometimes it's hard to access your reasoning part of your brain, the more rational part, the neocortex, because your limbic system is taken over. So through certain steps, you can begin to create what he calls integrative fibers to bridge your limbic system with your neocortex more and just other parts of your mind. So Dr. Siegel talks about the flipping your lid model. This is a great model for neuroscience for understanding how our emotions and thoughts can play out in a moment and how we can help remedy that if our emotions are getting the best of us. So our hand is basically our brain, right? And so you have your limbic system is like your thumb, and this region is your more emotional part of your brain, and your fingers are like your neocortex, which is the more rational part of your brain, right? And in a typical day-to-day moment, you have your brain, it's all here, right? But let's say you suddenly start getting really emotional, get really upset about something. Well, you might flip your lid, meaning you begin to become disintegrated between your emotional part of your brain and your rational part of your brain. So how do you bring that lid back down and become integrated? Well, one of the best ways to do that is through attunement. Attunement is something we think about through, a parent helping a child manage their emotions. A parent might attune to their child and see how they're doing, maybe empathize, bring some compassion, and help them to regulate their emotions. Well, the same goes for how we attune to ourselves. So in order to attune to ourselves, we need to check in with ourselves. Sometimes maybe that's through meditation, or that's just taking a moment to feel into our emotions or our thoughts, whatever we're experiencing. That process right there is a process of bringing that lid back down and bringing our neocortex and our awareness into our emotion regions of our brain and how our emotions are showing up in our body. Of course, that can be hard if we don't have a good development of emotional intelligence. So this process also helps to develop that. But let's say our emotions are just so scary to us. Well, you need to begin to let a little bit in at a time. And also it can help to explore this with like a therapist or a friend or someone that you can talk to. Part of this is also having, healthy relationships in our life, people that can attune to us when we're stressed out or having a hard moment. But we can also do this for ourselves. We can self-soothe ourselves, but creating relationships with people that, we have good attachments with, people where we feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure, as Dr. Siegel would say it, the 4 S's, is an important component of a healthy relationship. Our attachment is our way that we either feel secure or insecure in our relationship with others. But we can, of course, again, bring this integration to ourselves through awareness, compassion, empathy, and just really tuning into ourselves and finding that insight in our mind to recognize where we're at, what's going on, and better understand our emotions and our thoughts. So what also happens when we attune to ourselves is we begin to create what Dr. Dan Siegel calls integrative fibers, meaning we create neural network fibers from our limbic system to our neocortex and vice versa, and allows us, when we might be having a very flooded emotional moment, to more easily bridge and connect to our neocortex to help regulate ourselves and to calm down and also see things more rationally and see, oh, maybe the problem isn't as bad as I thought. So openness is also a really important part of this model because you're being open to your experience, open to your emotions, and that also helps to create the integrative fibers and just create a whole brain, which is the integrated self. So I hope you find that helpful. If you did, please hit the like button. Please leave a comment or question below. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button, and please share this video with anyone you think might find it helpful. And if you want to find out more about me or my resources, please visit my website at weswhitaker.com. You can find the link below. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a great one.